Laura Haddock, welcome to An Actor Despairs. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you here. You're so incredible. Your career, it's blossoming in such an amazing way, and you're going to be the biggest movie star in the world. I know it. And but you have amazing. I mean, you're a character actor as well. Like you make such amazing choices. Even something like kind of bright like Downton Abbey. I thought what you did with that character was so fun, and it was just like the I I hope we can talk spoilers, but the Cockney to the American and just like other things like white lines and I'm just so excited for you because like you're taking off and it's amazing and it's great watching justice prevail.
Oh, thank you so much.
Uh,
What a lovely thing to hear. Thank you so much for saying that.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The first thing I discovered you in was Transformers because my friend was one of the leads, Nicola, and I discovered you then, but I've watched you with a watchful eye, and I'm just so impressed with the work that you're doing, and I see how hard you're grinding, and
Oh.
you're gonna be like this time next year. I'm gonna hit Ellie, and she's gonna be like, she's booked out for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be fun. Thank
But
you so much. What a lovely thing. That honestly, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
no, I mean every word of it. I really do. But if it's okay with you to get to the ultimate work, let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up?
In England, Hertfordshire.
And for
So
the Americans, like what is that North London?
it's north of London.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it is north of London. Yeah,
So
it's north
with
of London, but and a bit close. It's sort of an hour's car journey into the city. But I actually didn't venture into the city too much as a kid. We kind of went in once or twice a year, and it was normally to see something on in the West End, a play, or and then again at Christmas, and we'd go and see a pantomime. I don't know if you guys have pantomimes over there. Do you have pantomimes?
wait, would that be like a commedia dell'arte or
So a panto is something that they put on at Christmas, and it's kind of a big musical that's silly and has a narrative that perhaps follows, like one of the like a Disney movie or something like that. But
got it?
it's people who the cast are normally people who are in the public eye in some
Like Love
way.
Actually people or something like that, or
Well, sometimes,
yeah.
yeah. And then you go and it's silly. It's like it's really interactive theatre, and it's really good for kids because
Oh
there's
wow.
lots of big numbers, musical numbers, and they often have songs that you know and you recognise, and they give the kid, they can invite children up onto the stage, and you can do a challenge and get like walk away with like a goodie bag. And
Well,
um
it sounds like I'm coming for Christmas, and I'm gonna have to ask you what
yeah, you
show to
should. If
go.
you've never seen a pantomime, you should come over and watch one because it's a real experience.
Wow, that's incredible. I had no idea about that. I feel like I need to brush up on my British cultural understandings of theater there. But that's amazing. What did your parents do then? Like, how did this whole thing happen for you?
So my parents, when I was growing up, my mum was a teacher and my dad was a corporate financier.
Okay.
Later on in life, mum went into being a reflexologist, so stopped teaching and then retrained as a reflexologist. And a brother and a sister, and quite a, I suppose, quite a quiet countryside-y upbringing. That yeah, it was just, it was lovely. It was really lovely.
I only asked for context. Like, are you the youngest or the firstborn?
Firstborn.
Wow. Okay. So what
Yeah.
was that like then being, the first sibling and growing up there with your
Well,
parents?
you can probably get my brother and sister on the podcast and ask them. Because I think they would describe our childhood quite differently. I think I was kind of quite keen on, putting on plays for mum and dad every weekend and making sure that everybody was involved. And we had this big box that was in our playroom that was just stuffed full of old hats and shoes and coats and dresses. I think my mum's wedding dress was in there at one point.
Wow.
And I would just dress us all up, and then, you know, sort of direct and star in whatever the play was that we were putting on. And so my brother and sister would kind of walk out behind me, slightly more reluctant.
And I take it they're not in the business.
They're not, no.
That's
they're
amazing.
not. But being the oldest, actually, yeah, you know what, you're right, because you, as the oldest, you're sort of paving the way, aren't you? You're the one who's begging to be allowed to go into the city, you know, into the town that was near us. And in you're 15 and you're like, oh, my friends are doing it, please let me go on the bus into town, I'll be fine, and I'll find a phone booth to call you when I get there. And
phone booths, I remember those days. Yeah,
exactly. Always had to have change so you could make a phone box call to your mum and dad to let them know that you were in town safely.
I'm curious because my mom was a teacher as well. Like, did she or your father at all, did they have any interest in the arts? Like, how did this start to kind of surround it? You know, you mentioned doing plays. Like, where did that impetus come from?
Well, my mom was in a band called the Harvesters when she was younger, so she's a singer.
Are they on Spotify?
I don't think so.
Okay, I was going to say we're going to get them some streams now.
I could send you, I could probably send you an old LP.
Yeah, please do. Have your mom autograph it, and I'll put it up here.
Oh, she'd love that. Yeah, she'd love that. So she was in the Harvesters. So she was very musical, always singing, played guitar, and then Dad really appreciates music, arts, theatre. You know, we were always encouraged to really appreciate film, television, theatre, music. So grew up in a very kind of noisy house, and there was always music on in our house, and there was always a film that we were sitting down and watching together and then kind of dissecting over dinner. So yeah, we did grow up in a relatively creative household. I would say the drive in our house though was probably sport.
What was your sport?
So I played lacrosse.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up playing lacrosse and loved it, really loved it, played for the county, and, you know, at one point was kind of training every day after school and then had a game at the weekend. And so that was busy. And then my brother played rugby, and Jack is legally, so he has less than 50% hearing in one of his ears. So
me too. I'm half deaf. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So then you're legally obliged to qualify. You can qualify to play for England deaf, or, you know, whatever the team is that you want to play for. So if you have a superstar skill at some sport, then you could play for the deaf team.
Wow, that's amazing. And they had that at a young age. That sounds like something that would exist now, not back, you know, like in the 90s.
Yeah. So mum noticed it when we were growing up. She sort of, you know, I guess being a teacher had perhaps more of an eye on how behavior really. And I think, you know, Jack struggled a little bit because in a classroom, if the teacher's back was to him and she was writing on the whiteboard or whatever, he wouldn't be able to hear her very clearly. So he would kind of go off into his imagination and switch off. And anyway, so this was brought up, and then they discovered that, yes, he did have partial hearing in one of his ears. And then he went and did the grommets and the adenoids and had, you know, I think it's adenoids removed, grommets put in. And that first day that he clearly heard the world was really pretty amazing. And he heard an airplane going over him, and he'd never heard an airplane in the sky before. And he was like, oh my God, what is that? And he sort of looked up into the sky. And he was like, is that sound coming from the airplane? And Mum said, yeah, it is. And to watch him, you know, he was older. I think he was sort of 7 or 8, maybe even older. And he'd heard an airplane for the first time going over, quite low, but going over.
What a beautiful memory. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
He also said something else magic, which will always live with me. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because my son said exactly the same thing to me today. And I'm always blown away by this. So Jack asked my parents when he was younger, when did the world change to colour? And Pip, my son, was looking through something earlier, and he was looking through an encyclopedia, and he was seeing these black and white images. And he asked, when did the world change to colour?
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, I just love this. Bottle that. That's beautiful.
That's so funny, because I watched Pleasantville the other night. If you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
It's just, I thought the same thing when I was young, but that's beautiful. I'm curious then, playing sports, because I think there's a conception, and perhaps it's a misconception, is just, England, and obviously Greece as well, being the birthplace of theater, that everyone there has some kind of like adjacent theater community or something within, arm's length. Was that at all true for you at a young age? Like, were you doing these?
My school, sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Answer. Go away.
Well, my school had an amazing drama department. So I was really lucky in that respect, that we were always putting on something, so rehearsing and then putting on a play, I think twice a year. And then the music department was also really strong, so there was inter-house music competitions and things like that within my school.
Pantomimes.
Exactly. So there was a big creative outlet at my school, but not very many people went on to study it or chose it as chose it to be something that they wanted to do as a career. And I spoke to an amazing woman, Helen Cannon, who came into my school when I was in year 11. So I would have been about 15 or 16. And she came into the school, and she'd been to drama school, and she'd been an actress, and then she'd chosen to come back to teaching. And, I think slowly but surely she started to make me realise that this was a chosen career, that you could earn money from it, and B, giving me all the information about how I go about that. So you go and audition at drama schools and try and get a place, and if you get a place, you're there and you study for 3 years, and then hopefully at the end of it you'll get an agent. So she was really kind of pivotal in my discovery of this being something that would be able to keep a roof over my head, sort of, potentially. So then I went off and sat with my mum at a computer for a few hours and wrote off to all these drama schools, and then
the RADAs, the Lambdas, the Bristol Vic, all of those. How did that go for you the first time?
So I went and did some auditions, and I think I was very young. I think I was quite green and very young and quite naive. So the drama school that I ended up going to was kind of perfect, because it had a lower school. So I think there were students there from sort of age 11 all the way through up to 18, and then it had the
adult section.
The adult section. So there was a really lovely kind of felt quite safe, cozy feeling in the school, because there were children dancing and singing, and then the adults who were kind of walking around with their Chekhov books and learning about different practitioners. And I felt really, really great there, and ended up going to arts educational, which was cool.
That's incredible. And what was that experience like? Because it sounds like you had this kind of moment of realization at 16.
Yeah, I was about 16. Yeah.
And in the UK, you start drama school at 17, 18.
So yes, I'm quite young in the year, because I'm end of August baby. So I was 17 when I left school, and just 18 when I went to drama school. So you can go in at any age, any stage.
And I think one of the most unique things about drama school that my own drama teacher, Lisa Dyer-Briggs, said is, like, it's good for you to go be somewhere where you're not the best actor there, and I think, like, I got into it at like a young age, but I took a break, and I'm curious for you, having discovered it then, and then going to drama school, was that really overwhelming? Like doing, I know you're British, but Elizabethan, iambic pentameter, Greek, and, all of this like classical stage work, was that?
Yeah. We had a classical theatre studies teacher at St George's at the school that I'd been to, and he was really keen on, and also because when I chose to do theatre studies at A levels, it's not as practical as you think. So a lot of it is theory based.
Yeah.
So you really are sitting in a room discussing where it started and how it started and the history of this industry. So yeah, I kind of had that as a starter package, and then went off to drama school, and then you kind of put it on its feet, and then more practical based. But still, you know, you come out with the degrees, you're still having to do all the theory and all the you know, all the written work as well. But as you say, kind of delving into on a much deeper scale, looking at your practitioners and yeah.
Was this drama school located in London proper?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So how did that feel?
Yeah, you're right. It was overwhelming. I remember, like, for years couldn't fall asleep. Yeah, actually, I'm probably quite similar even now. Couldn't fall asleep at night without having Friends on the telly and all the lights on.
Just because of all the noise and the
yeah, it's so loud. Oh my God, it's so loud in London.
What area were you in, if you don't mind me asking? I'm just curious.
The west of London.
So it's it's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. But it was a real experience, and you know, I think quite quickly you find the people that you feel safe with and that you bond with. And I met one of my best friends, who's still my best friend to this day, and we met the night before we started, and he's remained my best mate for 20
years. Is he still acting?
He's he's now working at Kew Gardens. He's working for some top, like, plant scientists.
Oh man.
So trying to keep our planet alive.
He's buying tickets for the theater. Wow, that's amazing. And that's,
exactly.
I'm curious, you know, because I'm glad you touched on this. So much of drama school is the people that you end up studying with. And you had this pal. Did you get along with everyone else? Like, not only just moving into London, but, you know, starting acting and getting serious is just so many different things. At 18, we feel so old, but we don't realize how young we are.
No, there's a real combination of feeling like the wisest, most invincible baby. Like, whoa, hang on a minute, this is a lot. Like calling your mum on a
crying
Saturday saying, "How do you roast a chicken, Mum?"
Oh man, I still don't know how to iron.
Like, exactly. Ironing's gone. I don't care about that anymore. Ironing's got to be. That's just the last thing on my list. I don't know that. I can't remember the last time I picked up an iron. No.
I buy spray called wrinkle release spray, so I can
perfect. This is perfect.
So much better, you know.
But, and way less dangerous. I feel like irons are, like, too dangerous for my liking.
Totally. And I care about my shirts. That can't be good for shirts. But talk to me about the program there. So are you every year doing like a classical and a contemporary piece, you know, each year?
Exactly. Yeah. So you're looking at one classical, one contemporary, and then a musical.
And do you sing?
I do sing. I don't know how. Pick
up that guitar, play a tune.
I don't know how I'd fare in like a big kind of, you know, musical number. No, I don't think that is a long time. I think it's 20 years ago I was at drama school.
Wow.
Is it 17? Yeah, 20 years ago that I started.
It's 14 for me. So yeah, it's
oh my God.
Yeah.
But I do sing a little bit.
That's wonderful. And tell me, like, you know, most, you know, drama school programs in the UK are based on a showcase. Was this one building up to a showcase?
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. So you spend your 3 years building up to that moment where you do your final piece and then a showcase, and then agents come in and select.
Wow. I know.
Make selections. And you're just like crossing everything and running up to the board to see if you've got any little letters on the board to say, you know, you've got a meeting with so-and-so, or this person is interested. Do you want to do this meeting? Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot.
So much. You know, I so we can get to the work. I hate to, you know, make such an incredible experience so brief, but tell me, you know, how did drama school go essentially for you? You know, like before the showcase, did you feel happy with the work you were doing, the teaching you were getting, the friends and so to speak, connections you were making?
Yeah, it was perfect for me at the time. It was just perfect. I mean, I really have such fond memories of that time. You work really hard,
Yeah.
which I was still up for, right? Because I was, I'd come straight out of school into drama school. So I was really in that rhythm of being in a schooling system. So I was really happy to like go in and work really hard and come out at the end of the day. And then just have debauched weekends and kind of getting pissed in the student bar and
Yeah.
thinking, oh, we go again.
Yeah.
Back in on Monday, we go again.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But yeah, I did some great, I did some great plays. One that stands out was a D.H. Lawrence called The Widowing of Mrs Holroyd. And I played Mrs Holroyd. And it's funny to think back now. She's probably actually my age now. I'm 36 and she was probably not so far off this age, but I was playing her when I was 20. Just like thinking you're nailing it as well, thinking, yeah, I buy it.
The youthful confidence, man. If we could just access that at all times.
I know, you're actually playing an 85-year-old and no one believes it, but sure. Yeah, sure.
So how did the showcase go for you?
It was good, very lucky. I was very, very lucky, and I signed with an agent, and was very lucky. So I appreciate it was with an agency called Conway Van Gelder, and I was thrilled. And then came out of drama school, and actually that was a little bit strange because the first jobs that I was booking were TV and film jobs. So my training had been all on stage. So I had zero understanding really of
they didn't cover that at all in drama school? Wow.
Not really. A little bit. We had one sort of course on TV technique. But obviously, as you know, you just learn on the field when you're doing TV and film. So yeah, that was a big, that felt like my first huge lesson in learning how to be on TV and screen on the job, which was a bit like
it's trial by fire. But look at you rose to it. That's some way. If you're lucky enough to get that and you've done an outstanding job. Tell me,
it's a different language though, isn't it? You're kind of learning all the technical terms, and you're learning who's on set and who does
what a two shot is, like what coverage means. Exactly. We don't film it at the same time,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. So it was a fast learning curve. And I don't think I really settled into it for years. I don't think. It took me a long time to feel comfortable with all the tech, all the technical stuff on a set. I think I did a big series, a big TV show, and I had a lot of really well-established actors in the UK in that TV show. And
is that the Da Vinci one? Or
it was actually something called Upstairs, Downstairs, but Da Vinci Demons, yes, that was one that I did quite quickly afterwards. And by the time I got into Da Vinci's, I felt like, okay, I understand how this works. And, I felt a lot more at home stepping onto a set. And,
as you were tackling these film and TV things, were plays coming your way? Because I know if you're lucky enough to get them right away, that's what you should take. Because I've had Jason Isaacs and other people on the show that are like, it took them longer to break into the film and TV world, and they wish they would have embraced it sooner. So because I know the Brits take the West End and theater, and the National Theater so seriously. Was that, was that always an imperative to you to ultimately get there?
Oh yeah. Ultimately get where to TV
on the stage. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I kind of hadn't really considered anything else, if I'm honest. It was just my main focus was to do theatre when I was at drama school, and the TV and film thing that happened was quite surprising actually. And it took me a while to shake hands with it and really feel just because the process is so different, the rehearsal is so different, pre-production in theatre and TV and film is so different. So you need to show up on your first day especially in a TV show, show up on your first day really knowing exactly what you're doing. There isn't the luxury of sitting in a room for 4.5, 5 weeks and really dissecting these characters and talking about, all the ins and outs of how these people interact and what your motive is and what your motivation, none of that. Just better show up and know your lines and do it in an interesting way. But I think what drama school makes you do is be really thoughtful about character and really ask a lot of questions. And you can then dive into the stuff that we did, which is, look at, if I was an animal, what would I be? Or if I was a song, what would I be? And so there's all these things that we have in our back pockets, which you can, or you do what you don't use. It depends on the role, I think. But I think actioning every line and, there's just a training there that's there, and it's great. You didn't get it for free, but you've got it now in your toolbox of things that you can use if you want to. And I dip in and out of the way that I prepare a character, but I definitely love kind of digging around those things that I learned at drama school and using the things that are helpful. And as I said, that changes a lot. But yeah, there's little things that I always do and little things that I do sometimes.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. I'm curious because I don't know if it's just an American phenomenon or if it exists in the UK, but did you use coaches at all?
You can use coaches once you get into, if you come out of drama school and then you're being booked in a certain role, for a certain role in a certain job, you can then have a coach to help you through that particular job. I've used a dialect coach a lot in my career because I seem to really love taking on different characters who have very different vocal qualities.
Yeah, you're incredible accents. I'm going to have to hire you to help me Cockney and British and RP. I'm just like, man, if only I could be as good as you. But
can you do that thing where you can go from state to state in America? Have you seen that on YouTube when actors?
Wait, no. Well, you mean where all the filming locations are?
With the accent, where you can start at the top and then you work.
Oh.
Have you seen those on YouTube?
I haven't seen it, but now I'm embarrassed to admit that because I should be like, yeah, I've seen that many times.
It's fascinating how they change their accent just slightly, intonation slightly as they're working their way through America. You guys have got so many different accents over there.
Well, I think it's so funny you say that because I feel like we have like northern, like Boston, and like southern, and then like California, you know what I mean? And then like Minnesota, and that's it. And like when I've been in London, I've gone to
New York, New Jersey, you got loads.
True. But like when I go in London, I'll go 2 blocks, and this guy like, hello, how you doing? And then 2 more blocks, I might, like, what is going on? Like 4 blocks, how does it change that much?
That's in London, yeah, totally. It's fascinating, isn't it? And then if you've been up north in the UK as well, that's amazing to go from Scotland.
And there's like, aren't there like 8 Scottish dialects,
Yeah, there's loads just within Scotland. And then you kind of pass through Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle. Yeah, it's amazing.
And I'm so curious because I'm sorry if we've been focusing on the beginning part, but it's so accomplished, and I'm curious at what point you built all these incredible British TV credits and did some what we call here procedurals, like Ripper Street. At what point did your agent, or was it you, that were like, what about America? When did that topic kind of come up?
Oh, I've always been really, really, really easy. I've just had to I've just been, how do I put it? I guess it's like a what will be, right? So I've never had like a hit list of things. I've never been like, right, now I want to do this, and now we have to aim for this, and this has to be the next thing. I haven't been that formulaic with my career at all.
You're just better off that way,
Just gone on a feeling, this might feel like something that we should explore. Let's do it. And if it works, it works. And if not, let's just, settle back into where we were and then get ready to kind of explore that next motion. So it's just about moving. That's how I've done it. I've just kind of like, it's okay. Just a lot of belief and a lot of, I remember once somebody saying to me, comparison is the thief of joy. And I remember that right at the beginning of my career, because she said, There is just no point in ever comparing yourself to anybody else in this industry. There's loads of us doing it. And we're really such an saturated industry. So love every job, because you don't know what's going to happen. And she said it's two things. Tomorrow, you might get a phone call and it might change your life for the better. Tomorrow, you might get no phone call, and that might last 4 months. So really enjoy the moment. So that's kind of what I've tried. I mean, you can't do that all the time. I've tried to do that. Yeah. So the America thing, I guess.
Was it Transformers?
Yeah, I guess it was Transformers. And that was a really interesting call, because I'd been pregnant with my son and I'd had him in the December. And then this meeting came up in the early parts of the next year. And I was still,
Did you have American Rep at this point or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're still, very much in Babyland. Yeah. But I went in for Transformers because it was fascinating to me. I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And I knew Michael was going to be there. And anyway, I took Pitt with me because I was feeding him. So I took him. And I was in the room with Michael and we did the meeting. And then we had this conversation afterwards. And he said, are you strong enough to play this role? And I said, yeah. And he said, I know you are, because you've come in with a 3-month-old.
Wow.
And if you weren't strong enough, you would never have come into this meeting. And so I know you're strong enough. And also you played lacrosse, so I know you're strong enough. And I was like, in my head,
you're badass motherfucker.
Badass motherfucker. But I was thinking, okay, so this whole role is about me being strong, and I've got 0 core muscles right now. Okay, what's happening? And then he said, yeah. So I booked the gig, and he reminded me a lot during filming. You're so strong. You came in to see me, and your kid was 3 months old.
So he was good to you.
Yeah, he was really, really supportive of me being female new mother. There was a point when I think Pitt was on set and there had been a trailer mix up, and Michael was like, get her in mine, just put her in mine, she can have my trailer, the kid can go in there, he needs space, she needs that with him. But then obviously high expectations in terms of what you're doing for him. So, you are working every hour under the sun, and you're there at the drop of a hat. And that's the first time I think I've ever done a job where I felt like, right, for the next 9 months, every hour is available. That sort of feeling. And I had to really get my head around that, just becoming a new mom and, wanting to dedicate all my time and energy to this film as well. And that balance was like, okay, here we go, strap the baby on and just go. And so, it was a really interesting experience. And I think Michael and I found our rhythm through just, a mutual respect of just how much energy you need to make his films. They are there.
I've heard so many stories, and I'm curious because obviously, if you don't mind me saying so, you're incredibly beautiful, and you have this classic movie star, you could walk out of the 20s, 30s and be the star, just like in Downton Abbey, spoiler alert. And, being in this Michael Bay film where, this is the first film without Megan Fox, and, having the kind of distribution that does, was that overwhelming, knowing that this film is going to be so huge and just being seen by millions upon millions, because those movies, they're so successful because it's just international blockbusters.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable how huge they are.
Yeah,
I honestly have to tell you, I don't shake hands with that kind of way of thinking. I don't.
Thank you for saying that.
I really don't. I don't think about how big the thing is. I just don't. I guess my whole thing, that's the last thing I need to think about, right? So I just kind of let everybody else worry about that, and I just worry about what I have to do. And I find it a lot. I just can remain much calmer if I just go small on it and just do the work and like think about the intricacies of the woman that I'm playing. And, you know, that's where that's what I'm interested in. And I don't read anything, you know, my guys know my publicists always send me everything because they're like, this is a really lovely one. I just don't read them.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss. Yeah.
I just don't. Yes, I totally believe that. And well, not in everything, but in this.
Right, of course. Yeah. Trust me, I've looked at a YouTube comment and like for a week, I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
I know. And it's just, you know, when it's creative.
I would say, yeah, I can, but it's beautiful. I love it. You know, you're a badass mother, man. That's what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay, let me check. Oh no, okay. Yeah. I think it gets too confusing and you can muddy the water if you start to think about those sorts of things. So I just keep it real small and just focus on the woman and the character.
And do you feel like, you know, after that movie came out, and I'm sure, you know, tons of people discovered you, that was when and maybe you had it sooner, but do you feel like that's when you had, pun intended, agency, so to speak, to choose what you wanted to do with different roles and like pursue the things that interested you?
A little bit more agency, but then I got pregnant again with my second. So
I have so much respect for you and love. I know.
So there's a real juggling act that has to happen being a woman who wants children and wants this career, because oh my gosh, it's a real balancing thing that has to happen. And I think as I've got older, I've just become more and more clear on how much I love my job and how much I love being a mum. And those two things, it's so difficult to marry those two things up. And, you know, every day it's like trying to find the way to balance that out. But I just take the pressure, you know, as much as I can. I just take the pressure off it all, as long as as long as everybody's happy and I'm having a nice time. Do you know what I mean? I'm not particularly like ravenous to be the best of the best. I'm just so fascinated and interested in living and existing with different women for the periods of time that I get to live with them. And I'm just super curious about the intricacies of all these different women that I've been able to play, and fingers crossed, hopefully all these women that I'll be able to play in the future.
Oh, it's coming.
That's so fulfilling to me. And I just don't have, you know, it's never been fame hungry. I've never been like, I want to be the best at that. I just want to work really, really hard and really just, you know, I can compare myself to myself and the people that I really respect and the performances that I think are phenomenal, and just learn from that, you know. Otherwise it gets too busy and you just get lost in it, and then you forget why you loved it. And
totally. I have so much respect and gratitude, and just I'm impressed, like being able to bounce them up, you know, me doing this acting thing in the pod and having a dog. I'm like, oh my God, like having 2 kids, you know,
it's all about,
hat is off to you for being able to do that and do amazing work, you know, like Luther. Like I'm so curious to talk about that character. Like that was so interesting, the work you did in that.
Yeah, I loved that role. She was so multi-layered.
I mean, they could do a whole prequel or series on her.
Yes, I agree. I would love that, because I just got completely like swept up in her head. So interesting, so manipulative, so dark. And then there was just I loved playing that role. Yeah,
you were outstanding in that role. I mean,
that show is amazing.
For those listening, it was season 4, right? That you're in.
Yeah.
You're so good. And did you know the show at that time? Because obviously,
I'd watched the show, so I was a fan of the show going in.
So what was that like? You know, because like
I'll tell you what that was like.
She
That
seems
was
so
like,
far from you,
that was
like
every woman I know calling me and saying, all of a sudden wanting to come and visit me on set.
oh man. Oh, there's a guy you work with.
I won't discredit them any. A lot of male friends and colleagues. What are you up to? You on set today? Yeah. Do you want to just pop in? You're in London, aren't you? Yeah. It's interesting today. Yeah, he's in.
Idris doesn't know sexuality, men, women, non-binary, trans, everyone loves him,
Totally,
yeah.
Totally.
And doing that work and then having, Transformers, did that at that point, do you feel like you started getting, and I'm not saying you didn't before, but like deeper and darker materials that maybe...
Yes, that's one thing that has happened as I've got older, and I'm loving this. I'm loving this groove at the moment, because the parts that are coming in now, that little bit older, lived through some real big life experiences, and I'm just weightier. There's more gravity. There's a gravity there that I'm really enjoying. Love. I think. Yeah, I think I'm allowed to say this. I definitely think I've become a better actress since I've had my kids.
I'm sure.
I just ask more questions, right? I just think I'm more curious. I'm asking more questions. I also don't feel like I know all the answers. So it's just, there's definitely something that's happened. I've grounded, which I needed to do. Because as I said earlier, I think I was really green going in, was pretty naive and just like, was having a lovely time.
Yeah.
And you can't exist up there. You just can't exist in this like floaty bubble of just
go to Los Angeles, because lots of people are doing it.
True. But I think
I know what you mean. It's not you can't maintain that if you want any degree of humility or self-awareness,
Exactly. It's too heady. It's too heady. And of course you want to hold on to a little bit of that, because some really exciting things happen up here. Especially when like preparing a part, but I needed to be grounded, and I think that really happened when I had my kids, and I think that's really helped my work. It's really helped my work. Also, my daughter is just so amazing that a lot of the time since I've had her, a lot of the characters that I've played, I'm like, what did Margot do?
I love that.
Yeah.
And so, something like White Lines, like, was that interesting to you, playing someone, grieving and going through so much, like you've done so much amazing television at that point in your career. What, before we get to Downton, what was, making you say yes?
Always the feeling like I wanted to spend time with the woman that I was reading.
Love that.
Like
the Capture, you were so good in that,
the Capture I love too, but it's always like if I've read something and I'm still thinking about it, and I feel like I've met them. That's I'm going a bit kind of like woo-woo, but it's always the ones that I really want to play, and like the jobs I want are the ones where I feel like I've met the woman, and I want to call her or text her and be like, can we carry on our chat? It's like kind of that feeling, and I just can't let her go, and I'm really curious to spend time with her. That's kind of how I feel about it. If that doesn't sound too...
No, it's spot on, and that's amazing. And I mean, obviously in the UK, we have our fair share in America, but there's so many, aristocratic British dramas, and when something like Downton came your way, that's so huge and has existed for so long, was that interesting to you to go explore this character?
Yeah, for sure. I loved how layered Myrna was, because she comes in and she's bolshy and brash and she's rude, and I was like, why is she being so rude? What's going on with this woman, as I was reading it? And then obviously when I got to the end, I was like, because she's terrified. Of course, because she's terrified. That's why she's being so rude. So then that becomes really interesting to me, because that terror exists from the moment that you meet her. But the audience aren't necessarily allowed to see that yet. So it's yours. So you own that. And then, you just bank all these things that you learn about a character, and you can just like, pepper them in the beginning. And then by the end, the audience realize and understand the bigger picture of what, you know, the actions of the person, why that person made them feel like that. So that was what I was really interested in, that she was going through something at the end of the 20s that a lot of actresses went through, and it was terrifying.
Can we talk about it, or is that not because it's out now, right?
I think
okay, so yeah,
sure.
I mean, it's literally history. So talkies were ending, and
Exactly,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
no,
The silent films,
yes, the silent movies were ending, and talkies were becoming a thing, and that's something
yeah.
she grapples with. And you know, I'm curious how much of like what you did with the character was written on the page, because she's really like, I don't want to say three different people, but three different versions, you know, of like,
Yeah, because she doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know
totally
who, she doesn't know
imposter
who
syndrome
really,
back.
that's what she had. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I wrote the first time I read the script. On the front of my script, I just wrote imposter syndrome. It's exactly what I thought. And this transition into talkies was terrifying for her, because she didn't have, you know, she was actively told in the movie, don't speak, like, you know, just I hope Myrna didn't say too much, did she, or she didn't speak, or, and so she's hearing this all the time. But she's opinionated. This girl is strong, she's opinionated, she's not afraid to speak. Yet when she does, her voice isn't received well. So she's learned that this is a negative thing. And then all of a sudden, when that comes into play as the most important thing, she doesn't know what the hell to do with that, because it's, you know, it's impossible. So this transition from silent film into talkies, it was bannered, finding your voice.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Charlie Chaplin couldn't make it, right? Like, he had a really hard time. Yeah.
Really hard time. And, you know, a lot of these actors at the time weren't even English speaking. They were, you know, Eastern European, or their first language wasn't English. So they were not only learning.
It was like pantomime, you know, they're so,
yeah. So silly.
Yeah.
It was just and the transition happened overnight, and it's impossible. That's like years of training.
Yeah.
It's a totally different skill. And that was career ending.
Wow. And I'm curious, you know, with you do 3 to 4 different accents in the film. Were those written in this script, or was that you having fun with like your YouTube search and like, I'm gonna do that?
Well, no, we knew that she was kind of from the East End of London, and so I worked with Daniel Lydon, who was my accent coach, and
you nailed the Cockney. I mean, it's so good.
Well, yeah, I'm interested in how you received that accent then, because you really did, you could place it in London, you know, having not been from the UK. I was really interested how that would be received outside of the UK.
Oh, I mean this in the most endearing way, you know, because it's like, oh, everyone's doing British RP, and I'm like, okay, you know, classic, like I get it. And then the first time you speak, I died laughing. You know what I mean? Because like what little I know, I was like, oh, that's gonna go interesting, and it played out. I honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie, that was the first Downton Abbey thing I had seen, and I didn't realize how funny it was. Like, I was expecting something like dark and like, you know, deep, and I had a great time watching it.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's so funny.
It was like
so funny.
So you're so funny in that, you know, like basically, you know, obviously pandemic happens, and I don't know, were you working on something before it happened, or did it
I'd done a film over in Italy in the interim periods between the 2 lockdowns. Yeah. So that film was very much in COVID, you know, like real COVID rules and regulations to make that movie. And then came back from that movie, and then didn't work from the summer all the way through the autumn into the winter, and then coming into the spring. So I'd been at home with the kids because they couldn't go to school, so like homeschooling, and the house was basically just a school covered in post-it notes. It was just things stuck up on the wall everywhere for them to be able to keep up to date with all the work that was coming in from school. And you know, just that was what we had to do. That's what we did. And it was, as everybody who did it knows, there was a thing, right? That was like oh my God. I actually don't have any sort of solid memory of it, just a feeling, just feels mad that that actually happened.
Yeah.
But you know, we all did it. And then it was International Women's Day, March the 8th. My mate had just had her baby, so she called up and she was like, oh, you know, Elliot's here. And then dropped the children off in Kew, and was walking back over the bridge, sort of looking at other parents like, yeah, what are you doing now? Going back for a mimosa? Yeah, I'll have a mimosa. Whilst taking everything down off the walls and washing and, you know, just like resetting the house. Yeah. And I got a call from my agent just saying, Simon Curtis wants to talk to you about doing Downton Abbey. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I'd absolutely love to talk to Simon about doing Downton Abbey. And I sort of stopped on the bridge, and I was looking out over the bridge, and I was like, oh my God, this is so important. I haven't had this feeling of getting a phone call from my agent about a job for ages. And I just was so thrilled. I was like, yes, I'm free all day. Tell him to give me a call.
I'm so happy for you. You deserve it so much.
Oh my God.
I can't even. Wow. That, I mean, even still, you know, like kind of being out of it, like there hasn't been a lot of lightness. So that must have been so amazing and illuminating. It just warmed your heart to like, I'm going to do something fun, you know?
Yes, I'm going to do something fun. My friends are in it. They all love it. They all say how wonderful the show is. And you can see that from watching it and then being in it, you know, in front of camera, behind camera, everyone's just great. And it's such a lovely set to go and work on. And yeah, there was just no doubt. Maybe 2 years before, that call would have come in and I would have been like, oh my God, I'm nervous to join a company like that, you know, and gone in really anxious and not felt that rush of just gratitude and joy and excitement when thinking about joining that cast at the time when I was called. And it was like, you know, kind of, it felt like, oh, this is a perfect combination of things. So yeah.
Back to what I said earlier, it was justice prevailing. And was it fun working with Dominic West, you know?
Oh yeah, he and I had such a silly time trying
it shows that you guys just have great
figure out how to be silent film stars. And both of us, we just had a silly time. We laughed a lot when we sort of had Simon Curtis directing the main set, and then we had Hugh Dancy directing The Gambler, which was the film within the film, our set. And then we were trying to do this silent movie thing. Michelle Dockery stood on one side of the set doing the voice, me doing the mouthing and the movements and getting it
so
wrong.
You didn't record the dialogue, you guys literally did it like that?
We did a bit of both. So we did a bit of both. But yeah, there was one day when it just got so silly. There were so many different people telling us what to do, and all of us just looked at each other like, what the hell is going on? This is mad.
So it sounds like there was a lot of love and a lot of laughs on that project. It's incredible. It makes me so happy. And
genuinely really great experience.
I'm not, you know, I'm being totally honest, you know, I got to watch Downton now, but I didn't know what to expect. And I went into that I was like, I needed it, you know, similar to what you were saying. I was just heavy. It was like, this was fun. You know, I just wasn't expecting it. I had a blast watching that movie.
Good. Yeah. It is feel good. Yeah. It is feel good.
I'm so proud of you. You're doing so well. And like, you're making amazing choices and you're taking off. And I really want you to come back because I could talk so much longer and I don't want to take up your entire day. So I just wanted to kind of bring it to the final question so you can make sure everyone's okay outside and go about your day. But final question is like, actors are, you know, really confused, going back to what we were saying about the pandemic being a dark time. And not just actors, like artists in general. It's a weird time to try to start your career. So if you had any advice to, you know, the young Laura or your buddy or, you know, anyone starting out now, what would you say? And I know that's a loaded question, but it would really.
I think from what I can tell and how the industry is feeling right now, there's such a want and a desire for creative content. It feels like it feels like there's a fire that's been put up the industry's butthole, and everybody's just gone, yeah, we want to make stuff. We want to make stuff, good stuff for people to watch and get lost in. So I think there's a lot being made, and there's an energy. Energetically, it feels really exciting. Like there does feel like there is a lot being made. So if like kids were coming out of drama school a couple of years ago, that would have felt just, we've talked about it a lot, that would have just felt so terrifying. Hold on, because it feels like it's more than opened up. It's really back on its legs, and there is loads of stuff being made.
More than ever, honestly.
It feels like that. I don't know if that's for real, but it feels like that from just like seeing how much is on the different streamers and films coming out, and from behind the scenes seeing scripts come in. It feels like there's stuff being made. So the industry is getting back up and running, and there is always room for amazing actors coming up and presenting themselves to the industry and doing their thing. So just hold on tight, and let's see. It's an oversaturated industry though, which is tough, isn't it? But
which goes back to saying creating your own content. You control
create your own content. That's a great piece of advice. I'm going to steal what you said and say create.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry, I know it's a heavy question, but
it is a heavy question, and you don't want to act like the authority on that.
I
don't have the answer, but it does feel like we're opening up wide for people to come in, and for there is lots being made. So there's a want and a desire for new actors coming in.
And speaking of new content, what, if anything, can you say about your next project that'll be coming out?
It's for Netflix. It stars Noah Centineo.
Nice.
And it's kind of, I watched the first 2 episodes. If I can describe it in like a feeling rather than go into the details of what it is, it's really fun. It's really fast. It's really heartfelt. There's a lot of drama, and there's a darkness to it that's interesting enough to keep you really hooked. So you
sold me. Great pitch. You should be writing. You got a great log line.
Oh my god, you have to learn how to get around, because I'm not allowed to say too much.
I know that was a tough question. You nailed it though. And Laura Haddock, I'm so grateful for you being here. It's meant so much, and I've had so much fun talking with you. And when the next one comes out, please come back. I'd love to break it down with you. And
thank you so much for having me.
It means everything. I'm so impressed with the work that you're doing, and you have such an amazing energy about you. It's going to carry you so far. It already has. And being a mom, I just thank you for your service.
Man.
You're an inspiration. You really are. And I've had so much fun.
It's going to carry me through for weeks. This is lovely.
No, I mean it, and I'm really wishing that play happens. I'll tell you what. I'll write the inverse Pygmalion, and we'll play the roles.
This is perfect. Thank you so much. I'll give you a week.
Yeah, you got it. 130 pages. Laura Haddock, thank you so much.
Thank you.